Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. I'm so excited to be able to talk about part 2 of this NBA Mount Rushmore for each team from the past 20 years. In part 1, we did the Atlantic Division, which is in the Eastern Conference. Now we're going to jump down to the Western Conference now, where we're going to be talking about the Northwest Division. So basically how this format's going to go, if you don't know, is we're going to go one Eastern Conference division like we did last episode, and now we're going to do a Western Conference division. And then next episode, we're going to go back up to the Eastern Conference where we're going to do the Central Division. So stay tuned for that. We're going to be uploading hopefully weekly on this series, but this is going to be a 6-part series, and I'm excited. So let's get right into the Northwest Division. Okay, so for the first team that we're going to be talking about today, we're going to be talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder, which, by the way, let me just name out all the teams that are in this conference or in this division. That is the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Denver Nuggets, the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Portland Trailblazers, and the Utah Jazz. But like I said, let's get right into the Oklahoma City Thunder, where I personally think this player has zero debate on whether or not he should be in this or not, and that is Russell Westbrook. One of, when I think of the Oklahoma City Thunder growing up, I think of Russell Westbrook, one of the biggest icons for the Thunder, just in general, for their franchise since they rebranded. And he's just been a triple-double machine. He won the league MVP in 2017, basically, and I actually think he was averaging a triple-double, and he is the franchise holder in scoring. He's undeniably an excellent player and definitely deserves to be on this list. Next up, we have Kevin Durant. I also think this is one that you really can't debate. Kevin Durant was actually drafted to the Supersonics before they rebranded to the Thunder, so that's just a quick little side comment, I guess you wanted just to give there, a little fun fact. But Kevin Durant won the league MVP in 2014 with the Thunder. He also led the team to the finals along with Westbrook and James Harden, but to the finals in 2012. They ended up losing that finals series against, I believe, the Miami Heat with LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and Bosh. But overall, this Thunder, like Kevin Durant, has been an undeniably excellent player for the Thunder, one of the better scorers of all time, and just I think that's mainly because of the Thunder, of his time in the Thunder. And I know he left the Thunder on a bad note. A lot of fans aren't really going to be appreciative of him because of that, especially since he lost to the Thunder in the conference finals and then proceeds to join them the next year. That's kind of where his nickname Snake came to play, but overall, I do think Kevin Durant deserves to be on this list, whether you like it or not. Next up, we have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the face of the franchise right now for the Oklahoma City Thunder, where he had an unbelievable season this season, where he won the 2025 league MVP. He also led the Thunder to their first ever finals win since rebranding to the Thunder, and he also added on to that, won the finals MVP that year. So, I feel like it's undeniable that to add Shai to this list. He's been here for a couple seasons now. He's really developed well. I remember when he got traded to the Thunder, when the Thunder traded away Paul George. It was a massive trade with multiple first-round picks, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander felt like kind of just like he's a young player we could throw in. But now it's like, oh, wow, the Clippers might be regretting this. But anyways, I think Shai definitely deserves to be on this list. And then finally, we also have another recent player in J-Dub, a.k.a. Jalen Williams, who was just kind of the running mate, the Robin of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, where he basically helped the Thunder win the finals this last year. And he's just a fan favorite. I think a lot of Thunder fans will just go out and say, yeah, we love J-Dub. He's an excellent player. And we just, they love his grit. They love his grind. People call him the Scottie Pippen to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, assuming they would think Shai would be like the MJ, I guess you would say. But overall, the last one was kind of hard, but I feel like Jalen Williams deserves his credit. Without Jalen Williams, I don't think this Thunder team wins the finals this last year. but that's just my opinion. And then if I were to give an honorable mention, I would probably do James Harden. The reason why I didn't have him on here is because he really didn't blossom as much until he got traded to the to the Rockets. I guess you could have also had like Serge Ibaka on here or Steven Adams, but I just wanted to go with Jalen Williams and give him the flowers I think he deserves. So that's going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder. Let's move on to the Denver Nuggets. Okay, so for the Denver Nuggets, this one has been, I think this one was kind of one of the easier ones for me, just because my family definitely follows the Nuggets and they've been for, since their whole life, I guess. But yeah, this is definitely a one that I had a lot of fun doing. I think the first person we have to mention, and like, if anybody disagrees with with me on this, I don't know what to tell you. Nikola Jokic definitely deserves to be on here. He, in my opinion, is the best Nugget of all time. He's a 3-time league MVP. He won that in 2021, 2022, and 2024. It's crazy that 1 year, if Joel Embiid didn't win in 2023, he would have been a 4-time MVP. That would have been crazy. But he also led the Nuggets to their first NBA championship in 2023 and won the Finals MVP that year. Just undeniably the best player in Nuggets franchise history. Also, this may be a debate for another day, but comment down below. I think Jokic is a top 5 center of all time at this point. He might be the best center of all time when it's all said and done if he continues to trend in the way he's been playing. So let me know what you guys think down below. Well, let's get to the next player, where I have Carmelo Anthony, another player who wore number 15 in Denver. It just seems like number 15 is a pretty good number to wear if you're going to be a Denver Nugget, which is probably going to be a retired number when Jokic retires for sure. But Carmelo Anthony was an absolute stud in Denver. I don't think a lot of people remember Carmelo Anthony's time in Denver. I think a lot of people, when they think of Carmelo, is definitely when he was in New York. But Carmelo Anthony was undeniably an awesome player. He led the Nuggets to the Western Conference Finals in 2009. He's also 3rd all-time in franchise scoring. Great player in Denver, and I think he definitely deserves to be on this list. And when I think of Carmelo Anthony, I think of those awesome Nuggets jerseys, which, look them up, by the way. I love those like blue jerseys. Just love them. Anyways, next up we have Jamal Murray. I think he definitely also deserves to be on this list. He helped the Nuggets win alongside Jokic in 2023. And it just feels like every time the Nuggets need him in clutch situations, especially in the playoffs or against the Lakers, he pulls through. I mean, Jamal Murray hits the clutch shots. I mean, he's just a player that's a great running mate alongside Jokic, and it's just a great match for those two. And Jamal Murray definitely deserves his flowers. He's been a very positive player for this franchise, and even through those tough injuries, he's still been able to persevere and push through and help this team lead to very successful seasons these last couple of years. So he definitely deserves to be on this list. And then finally, we have one that a lot of people may not agree with me on, but I think Kenneth Faried, aka the Manimal, I think that was his nickname. Definitely deserves to be on this. Fan favorite. I know my brother will agree with me on that. He was just like a high-flying energy player. Like his athleticism, I don't know. Like he was just such a great value to Denver. Just a super exciting player in times when the Nuggets weren't very good, where it was more like Kenneth Faried, Danilo Gallinari, Wilson Chandler, kind of those days. So days that a lot of Nuggets fans might not want to remember. But I think he definitely deserves to be on this. And then if I were to give some honorable mentions, I would definitely do Ty Lawson and Chauncey Billups. But next up, let's get up to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Okay, so for the Minnesota Timberwolves, this one was kind of difficult to do just because Minnesota hasn't been super successful in the last 20 years. I mean, they've made some good runs occasionally, but I don't know, like it's just hard to kind of determine Minnesota. But I think number one, the first player that should 100% be on this list is Kevin Garnett. Just an iconic player for the Timberwolves. When you think of that old like throwback black Minnesota jersey with like the green trees on the side. One of my favorite jerseys, by the way. Kevin Kevin Garnett is who people think of. Also, like, you could argue he's the best player in the Timberwolves franchise history, which I would tend to agree with. But overall, I just think Kevin Garnett definitely deserves to be on this list. Next up, we have Kevin Love, another player that was excellent in Minnesota. Unfortunately, he got traded and then ended up winning a finals with Cleveland. But he was just an amazing offensive player. You know, he was just so talented offensively and just was a star in Minnesota. I think he deserves to be on this. I think if Minnesota, Kevin Love probably wouldn't be on a lot of people's Mount Rushmores, but in my opinion, with Minnesota, they haven't had that much success in the last 20 years. So, I mean, it's just hard to determine who would be on this. So I think Kevin Love definitely deserves to be on this for sure, though. Next up, we have Karl Anthony Towns, the player that just recently last year got traded to the Knicks. But the number one pick for the Timberwolves years back, excellent player, just brought great excitement to the team. Really didn't lead them to much success. I mean, he led them to the Western Conference Finals in 2024, but that was about it. Overall, though, he was just a great offensive player, multi-time All-Star. A lot of Timberwolves fans will forever remember Karl Anthony Towns, and I think a lot of Timberwolves fans will like Cat. The problem with him is just, I think his defensive inabilities was what really drived Minnesota and him not from being a really great player, especially in Minnesota. And we're also seeing that continue to trend in New York. But anyways, I still do think Karl Anthony Towns deserves to be on this list. And then finally, we have the new kid, Anthony Edwards. I mean, literally, like, some people are comparing him to like the modern day Michael Jordan, just the way he plays. I think Michael Jordan was night and day, like, different. But some people like to nitpick, but I think Anthony Edwards undeniably deserves to be on this. He's definitely the new face of the franchise, with just unreal athleticism and superstar abilities. He's already a superstar in this league, in my opinion. And when it's all said and done, if he continues to stay in Minnesota, I think he could end up being the greatest player in Timberwolves history, and I will say that with confidence. But anyways, that's going to be the end of the Timberwolves list. Let's get on to the Portland Trailblazers. Okay, so let's talk about the Trailblazers, where another team that hasn't had a crazy amount of success. A lot of people probably won't remember the Trailblazers that much if they weren't a team, let's be honest. But the Trailblazers overall have had some very exciting players. So let's get started with probably the most iconic player in Trailblazers history, Damian Lillard, other than maybe Clyde Drexler. But I would say Damian Lillard is a very popular player, and one of the best. He's the face of the franchise, undeniably. He's a fan favorite. He's the franchise record holder in scoring. What else do I have to say? It's Damian Lillard, Dame time. You think of all those crazy clutch shots. Damian Lillard, it's good to see him back home also, coming back to Portland. But anyways, let's get on to the next player, and that is LaMarcus Aldridge. Just a dominant forward with just excellent scoring and rebounding abilities. He's also in the leaderboards for franchise points and rebounds. Just an excellent player. LaMarcus Aldridge, I miss LaMarcus Aldridge because he was just such an underrated player. He was never really the player that's going to lead you to the finals, but he would be such a great number 2 or 3 on any championship level team. It's just unbelievable. If you watched LaMarcus Aldridge back in the earlier 2000s, or not really earlier 2000s, but in the early 2010s, I guess, excellent player, and I just loved watching him play. Next up, we have Brandon Roy. I had to include him. I know injuries cut his career short, but man, he was such a fun player and such a good player to watch. And he was a fan favorite in Portland. If you guys don't know about Brandon Roy, look up his highlights after this video. He was so fun to watch, and he was just an excellent player, and I just could not have him miss this Mount Rushmore. And then finally, we have CJ McCollum, Damian Lillard's running mate for many years. Just a player that he just formed an amazing backcourt with Dame. I wish it ended up working out that they can make a deeper run. They ended up making the conference finals one year where I believe they played the Warriors, where it was when Seth Curry was on the Trailblazers. So that was kind of cool. But CJ McCollum, just excellent player. He was a great scorer, and he was most known for his three-point shooting. Just like an absolute fun player to watch. It's unfortunate to see that he's kind of spiraling downhill as of late in his career, but that's also because he's getting older. He's not really in a great situation. I believe he's in Washington right now, so it's like he's not going to be winning anytime soon unless he gets bought out. But anyways, that's going to be the end of the Trailblazers. Let's move on to the final team of the Northwest Division, the Utah Jazz. Okay, and last but certainly not least, we have the Utah Jazz, where this team also, once again, overall in their whole entire span of their franchise, has not been super successful despite, having Karl Malone, John Stockton. They did make the finals those 2 years, but Michael Jordan said otherwise. And by the way, Jazz fans, any of you watching this, Michael Jordan did not push off. You guys can stop being hung over that. Get over it. You guys lost. Michael Jordan's better. He owns your franchise. Anyways, let's move on, where I think the first player we have to include is Deron Williams. We also added him to the Nets all-time, the Nets Mount Rushmore last episode. But Deron Williams, just definitely a star point guard. He was a two-time All-Star in Utah, just an excellent, exciting player and a point guard that almost any team really would like, and the Jazz were very lucky to have him on their team. Next up, we have Donovan Mitchell, a player that brought so much excitement to Utah just a couple years back before he got traded to Cleveland. Just a great scorer, a fan favorite, and I just still remember that series in the bubble when that series went to 7, when they blew the 3-1, granted, against the Denver Nuggets in the first round, but that was just such a fun series watching Donovan Mitchell dominate in the playoffs, scoring so many points every single game, keeping his team in that every single game, along with Jamal Murray going off. That was a very fun series. If you didn't watch that series live, I'm telling you, you missed out. That was such a fun series, and I highly recommend to look up at least highlights of it because it was so explosive, and that was the highlight of the bubble for me, in my opinion. Next up, we have Rudy Gobert. There are a lot of people that really hate on Rudy Gobert, specifically Shaq. If you guys don't know the beef between Shaq and Rudy Gobert, it's pretty insane. But Rudy Gobert, in my opinion, definitely deserves to be on this. He's one of the best interior big man defensively of all time. I believe he won the Defensive Player of the Year 3 times in Utah. I believe he's a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year winner, but he won the other one in Minnesota. But he did win 3 times in Utah, and that was in 2018, 2019, and 2021. So also another player that could have won 4 times of the same award almost in a row. That would have been insane, by the way. But Rudy Gobert, just overall, great player for Utah and just an iconic player, especially from the past 20 years. I just feel like you could not include him, I guess. And then finally, this one might be controversial, and a lot of people might not agree with me. This might be a biased take on my end, but I think Gordon Hayward definitely deserves his love in Utah. Just one of the players that brought, during that time, the Jazz weren't very good, and they weren't very good this whole 20 years. But Gordon Hayward brought some serious excitement, just a very versatile wing. He had great scoring abilities. Unfortunately, he left for Boston in free agency, and then he had that nasty ankle injury, which to this day still is just really gross to look at. But Gordon Hayward, I think, deserves to be on this. This is going to sound weird, but I really loved using him on 2K. I think it was 17, which is a video game if you guys don't know what I'm talking about. But it was so fun to be able to use Gordon Hayward, and he was just a fun player to watch. And then for some honorable mentions, I have 3. I have Carlos Boozer, Andre Kirilenko, and then also Derek Favors. I think all 3 of those players definitely could have been on this list, even over Hayward. But in my opinion, this was definitely the hardest team to do in this division, not because of their unsuccessful runs, but because there's been so many decent players in Utah that it was just hard to only pick 4. But overall, that's going to be the end of the Northwest division in this part 2 of this series. I also want you guys to comment down below, what do you guys think of this series? I'm going to continue to try to improve and make it more fun to watch. I'm also trying to add a little more enthusiasm in my speaking, so if you guys are noticing that, please let me know, because I would like to hear if it sounds good or if it's a little weird. But overall, that's going to be the end of podcast 64, and as well as part 2 of this NBA Mount Rushmore edition. There may be a video coming later this week as well that's not a Mount Rushmore video, so stay tuned for that. Check me out on all social media platforms, especially Instagram, where you're going to be able to see most if I do have any news to talk about. But anyways, thank you all for tuning in to podcast number 64, Sports Talk with JWock. I hope you all have an amazing week. God bless.